Hey there gamers, welcome back to the Board Game Co channel, and this is a preview of Furylands. Hey there gamers, it's Professor Mag here, and welcome back to the Board Game Co channel. Today we have a preview of Furylands, Ashes of Avalon. That's right, this is a sponsored preview, so thank you to Warrios Games for sponsoring this video, and this is an upcoming Kickstarter. You can check out the link down below, but not only is this an upcoming Kickstarter, but it will actually be a live gameplay on the Board Game Co channel, and not one live play, but there will actually be 2 live plays on the channel, because this is a game that is progressive, so you'll be leveling up your characters, and they are very unique where you can choose different skills that you'll be able to choose. So with that, we'll be able to show you what an entry-level scenario will look like, and then what the progression will look like throughout the beginning. So with that, let's talk a little bit about Furylands. In Furylands, players will have 12 different characters to choose from. Now these are pre-named characters, they have their own art, and I kind of enjoy that it takes a little bit of the character generation away from you, because there are so many skills that these characters aren't completely customizable, and you can really use them however you want. So I think it's really fun to play into their different abilities that they start off with and their starting aesthetic. Now, as I said, Furylands does have 12 playable characters, but something that I think is really cool is that there is a map, and there are 5 different areas that you are able to visit. And you are going counterclockwise, but to finish each area, you need to have 12 experience points per area. And to do that, you're finishing different quests, so you are randomly generating these different quests that you're able to choose from, and then after that, you are gaining experience for completing them, and once you have enough, you can challenge the mini-bosses. Now, once you complete all 5 regions, you get to complete or fight against the final boss, Dresnoth, and you battle up against them, and if you are able to win, you save the day, and if not, you have one final chance to beat him, and if not, you need to start over, but I think you'll get there by the time that happens. Now, as I said, in the final battle, you could lose the game, but any of the other scenarios in Furylands, you're able to replay if you lose. There are certain things that will happen, such as looted chests will remain looted, but anything else that you would have gained during the scenario, you do not gain, and you would need to recomplete the scenario. Now, what we have set up in front of us is one of the base scenarios that you have at the start of the game. Something that's also very unique about Furylands is they have these boards that the maps are on. So you can see here that I have the different unique maps. There are different ones for every single scenario. They are generated, and then they are put on top of this board and stuck inside of these corners, that they become boards that you are able to place together. So there are a ton of these. They're all unique per the scenario. You can tell from the map below, I kind of have a little bit of it blocked off, but there are trees up here, and there is this hut that you are able to access, but with the different grid system that I have, you're able to see where you're able to move, where you have line of sight, what things would block line of sight, and where the terrain kind of ends, that it becomes something aesthetic for the different scenarios that you're playing. Personally, I really enjoyed this system. I know that there are a lot of games that have tried to solve the tile system or flip book system, and this made very sturdy boards that were large, and the areas that weren't used were just made beautiful with artwork that I really appreciate how this was done, and I think this may be my preferred way for things like this going forward. I really enjoyed it. Alright, so that being said, in any game like this, there are multiple layers to the game. Now, there are a lot of the parts that I've talked about where you have options to pick which scenarios you're choosing from. That's the overworld phase, when you will upgrade your characters, gain more skill cards, buy things from the merchant over here, and you're also able to upgrade things from the merchant and get different options from them. But the majority of the game is going to be played within these scenarios. When you're in these scenarios, you're going to have a hand of cards that are made up from different things. There are 2 cards that every player will get, which is Brief Repose and a movement action. So for those ones, you would be able to have a movement, and for the Brief Repose, that is the main way you will be regenerating your mana. You will start with a certain amount of mana. For example, Valencia here would start with 9 mana, but once that is used during combat, you would need to regenerate it, and that is one of your ways to do so. Now you can also see that there are all of these skills here. So there are a bunch of skills to choose from, and when creating your character you will choose 2 skill lines to play into. And then after that you will build up those different skill lines to make them stronger and stronger to increase the abilities of the cards that you've chosen. So for Valencia here, we've chosen the Fire and Chaos skill lines, and her ability is that she is able to start with an additional fire skill card, which is why she has 3, as opposed to Hafnar, who has 2 and 2 of his skill cards. Now, their different abilities, as I said, are determined by the power of their skills. So right now, Valencia is just a 1. She's at the beginning, she's not that powerful, but her damage is times the amount of her number there in that value. So once she's able to upgrade it to higher numbers, then the damage she will be dealing will be much higher and scaling up with the different scenarios. Now all of the scenarios are planned world by world as you go through those different areas, because you do have to level up an experience to get to them, and you move counterclockwise going through the worlds. So that's a way for the game to balance how strong you are getting versus how much experience you are able to spend and what the monsters are able to do to retaliate against you. Now we're going to talk more about skill lines and skill cards in a second, but just to go over the other types of cards that you will have in the game, you will have different items such as weapons and armor that will help you, and like I said, you have the cards that everyone starts with. Now, just to give you an example of how many cards are available, there are 120 skills in this stack of cards. Now, you do have to choose your 2 branches, so once you choose your 2 skill lines, you do have that option of those cards available to you, but as you progress throughout the game, you will have more and more available to you and have more options with what you are bringing into the battlefield. Now in gameplay, players will be choosing 3 cards of the cards available to them, so they will have their skill cards, their cards that come with your character, and you will also have your items and weapons, and you will choose 3 of those to play every round. Your enemies will also have their own cards over here, and they will have their own determined speed. So over here we have our minor demon, and his speed is 2. He will be moving at 2, and generally you're going to be moving between 1 and 5. Now, based on the cards that you choose, you'll be moving as slow as your slowest card. So say for example it was a 3, you would be moving 3, and say another friend would be moving at 4, they would go 4, and the minor demon would go first, and then you, and then them. Now, this does build up toward how powerful the different things they are doing, and you'll be able to use this to your advantage to not be within range of enemies and hopefully move after them and use this strategically, or go very quickly when you know you need to do something very, very soon. Now, you can see in this scenario that we have set up, there is a villager here, and the point of this scenario is to actually make sure that he survives. He needs to survive for 6 rounds, and there are demons everywhere, and more demons will be spawning every round after the second round, or starting with the second round. So you will need to be using your characters not only to move up and stop these demons, but to mitigate any damage that might be done to this guy to save his life. Now, you know that this is the one that we are going to be doing because this card was chosen, which is the Seeker's Cabin. So your objective is to save the Seer from invading demons to get valuable insight on their next moves. And you know that it would gain 8 gold treasure and each in 1 magic item. So when you have your choices of what quests you're going to be doing, you'll have 3 available to you, and each one will be paired with a different event card. So you'll know what event will be happening with the different quests that you are doing, and you'll choose what you'll do to gain the different experience. This one has an event card called Gold Rush. Again, these were shuffled and just paired together, but this one would say that no reward other than gold may be gained from this scenario. So you would no longer be able to get the magic item because the Gold Rush would be stopping it, but the extra reward would be each player receives 20 gold pieces. So you would be able to receive 28 gold pieces each instead of 8, but no one would get a magic item, which honestly I think is a fair trade, because at the beginning of the game you get 30 gold to be able to buy items for your characters. It'll generally buy you 1, maybe 2 items if you're lucky, but you can see here at the merchant these are the different things available. So for that 28 gold you could get yourself another item to be able to use, and for both players to be able to do that, that is pretty powerful. Now let's talk more about skill cards. So there are a lot of skill cards in the game, and that will be the majority of how you are taking your turns and what you are doing during the different scenarios. You'll be choosing these skill cards based on what synergy you want to be happening, but they have a lot of effects that will be happening depending on the skills that you want to do. For example, if you choose the fire trait, you'll have a lot of spell casting damage, or if you choose to be a healer, you'll have a lot of healing instead. So when you look at your different skill cards, you'll see that they do have the speed, which will show how quickly they happen during the round. But after that, a lot of them will have a mana cost, costing between generally 1 and 4 mana, but perhaps more. And then they will have the different damages that they do. Some of them are certain damage for what skill you have, some of them will be healing, and some of them will only target specific things. So if you're able to target within your fire skill, that means that if your fire skill is 1, you would be able to target within your fire range. There's also penetration, which allows you to go through different shields. And there's duration, which means that something is allowed to be in play throughout different rounds. There are a whole bunch of these different things that will be able to happen within your cards, and below that, all of your cards have a different ability as well. For example, these fire turrets are allowed to be put into play, and those will then attack based on your fire level to the different enemies around them. There's also Fire Mastery, which also just helps buff the different fire things that you'll be able to do. But there's also Chaos Ball, which is a long-range, very strong chaos spell that you are able to cast on the different enemies. Now, all of the enemies will have a set speed, so they will go at a certain time, but you'll roll a d6 to see what actions they take. And sometimes if you roll a specific action, it may actually change the speed of when that action is happening to kind of add some surprise to the game. So in our example here, we have our minor demons, and they don't have something like that, but if they were to move on their turn, I would roll a 4, and that means they would move, attack, and then resist 1. And their movement is 4, so they would be able to move forward towards their target, and then attack for their attack amount, which is 1, and then after that resist 1, which would give them 1 shield. Alright, let's talk a little bit about the specifics of combat, because we've talked about the skill cards and the different things you're able to cast from range, but you'll also be making melee attacks as well. So this is the beginning of a scenario, and your different units will be able to move up toward their enemies. You are able to move diagonally, but you need to be adjacent to be attacking them. Now, if you were making a melee attack here, you would attack for a specific amount of damage, announce it, and then you would flip a card here from the modifier deck. So we would flip this over, and oh my goodness, I would miss that attack. That would be horrible. But let's say I attacked again with a different card. Ooh, I would then get +1 to that attack, which is probably a lot better. Now, for example, in the beginning, these minor demons only have 3 health, so they're a bit manageable and you're not trying to attack for too much. But again, as you gain in these skills and upgrade them, you're doing more damage through your skill cards. Therefore, your enemies will scale to be tougher and tougher, and you'll have even more enemies all around. Now, you'll be moving up toward your enemies. The enemies will always have specific targets. They will only move if they're able to see you. However, in this situation, the hut is open, and our poor villager here is the target, so he is being actively moved upon unless these demons happen to engage with our heroes instead. Furylands is very interesting, where you have a lot of character progression, but you will have an end in sight. As I said, you'll make the 12 experience per region, and you'll be completing each region, so it will be obtainable, but you'll be increasing your skills and your skill cards, as well as your mana and your health. Depending on the character that you choose to build into, you may want more health or more mana, or you're able to balance that out throughout the game. Furylands Ashes of Avalon will be a scenario-based game where players are able to have their unique characters and develop their skills to exactly what character they want them to be, choosing from the 12 characters that are available to them, and customizing themselves with the different things that are available from the merchant, as well as the different items that you're able to gain from the different scenarios. You also have a lot of agency in what you're choosing to do to gain yourself experience, as you have the different quests that you are able to choose from, and you're able to see what you would prefer to do. And as a reminder, this map system are these individual maps. Each one is unique for every scenario and slides into these boards, which really can be quite handy. As a reminder, this has been a sponsored preview. Thank you to Warrios Games for sponsoring this, and this is also a preview copy, so please keep that in mind. You can check out their campaign page to see everything that they have planned for this, but please keep yourself tuned because there will be a live game, no, I'm sorry, not live, but there will be a filmed gameplay on the channel with Alex Radcliffe himself and me, where we'll be able to go through 2 different scenarios for 2 different videos where you can see us at the beginning and then further leveled up in Furylands Ashes of Avalon. I've been Professor Meg, thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!